Thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I just got a note from Wuzhong that he's not able to make it. But as you see, I just added a bullet to the what's in progress on or next up on an on-ramp. He's looked at on-ramp and thinks he can contribute the SD-RAN RIC and XApps. So that would be great. But let's go to the top. And I don't know that we have DAF. I do know that he had gotten some more contributions on his triage of Jenkins. But I don't know anything more specific. Does anybody else? I'm kind of guessing not. All right, well, if he joins, we'll come back to that. But just a reminder of the link down here. We're just trying to go through everything all the tests we have and determine what needs to be carried forward. Okay, so let me do a fairly quick on-ramp update. Just wanted to introduce Bala, who you'll see on the call from Purdue. He's the one that's been doing the lion's share of the work on ramp over the summer. He and his advisor Shabazz from Purdue are gonna be joining up here pretty regularly, and they have a lot of work going on, both with, of course, on ramp, but also with scaling up the core.
Yeah, that's great. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
So, oh, by the way, it's fairly quiet so far, but we actually got a little bit of value out of it. There is an on-ramp channel. I should have mentioned that. Get that in here somewhere. On Slack. And we actually got our first pull request of someone who found something bizarrely wrong and fixed it. So that's great. Okay, so let me start at the top here. So the 5G starter kits have been delivered. I've heard from a couple of sites that they now have them in their possession. One of the more interesting developments is that there is a faculty member at Princeton who has not been involved in Aether. That's the most eager to get it up and running and connected. So I'm looking forward to working with him and his crew. They're more from the wireless side than from the edge cloud side. So I mentioned the Slack channel, proxy support. That's what Bala has finished up working in collaboration with Intel Labs, because they're behind a proxy. That work is done and it's solid and works. It's just a matter of getting it released and documented. Okay, the other thing that is in progress is trying to bring over the multiple UPF work that Gabriel had done at Intel Labs, and trying to find the right way to make it available also in on-ramp. And that's, I don't know, but Blah, is there anything, I mean, you basically have it, you know how it works, and you kind of have it working in sort of a proof of concept way, but it's now a matter of locking that down. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I just need to make it uncivilized so that it's a part of GitHub repo. Yeah, I have it running as a proof of concept. But yeah, I just need to uncivilize it, and that won't take too much time.
Great. So those are two. That and the proxy support will be released here.
Yes.
Pretty soon. And you can see the list of things that are sort of mixed up. And that includes the SD-RAN work. That's great. So it just occurred to me, it would be really, we do a lot of testing with the GNB SIM of the control plane, but not so much of the user plane. And just generally speaking, and maybe Scott and Andy, you could speak to this. I don't know how much we know about throughput performance of Aether. Is there anything you guys know about that?
Yeah, hey Larry, this is Christian.
Yeah.
We do have some throughput performance. We have been using, with Hyper for also T-Rex. And we could share some data, right? We could share, how we set up the system to be able to test for throughput performance. We have been using it on a single thread, right? Single processing pipeline, but also using Intel E800 series NIC, we can use what we call DDP, dynamic device partitioning, where we can create parallel queues, parallel thread. And we have been able to sustain, with using, I don't remember how many number of cores we can sustain, 100 gig line rate. We go up to 200 gig using, a number of cores, right? But we can, we can normalize to a single core, a single processing pipeline, and we have an idea of how much we can handle with a single CPU core. So we can share some, the way we set up the script we have, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I mean, it would be nice if we can figure out how to make that. And I realize this now gets us in the open source release issue, but how we can incorporate that into on-ramp so that it just becomes a standard part of the testing.
This is open for us. We don't have any issue with this, right? Yeah.
Great.
So Larry, sorry. So you're saying how to get like iPerf part of on-ramp or something more than that?
Well, so the big picture here is throughput testing of Aether of the user plane. That's the meta point.
Yep.
And what I believe to be fairly low hanging fruit is if we could just add an iPerf test. So when GNB Sim gets runs and runs its test against the control plane, when everything gets set up, it quote unquote tests the user plane by sending an ICMP echo packet. So it just does it does a ping.
Yeah.
If we could turn that into at least optionally a more substantial test of that included a throughput number, that would be fantastic. I highlighted both of these points because there is a related thing that I would like to be able to do, which is just bring up an exemplar Edge app. And it doesn't have to be anything wonderful, but just from an on-ramp point of view, just demonstrate this is how you bring up a service on the Edge cluster, and it now is connected through local breakout and the UPF to the RAN. And it just occurred to me that the first server that we could demonstrate how to bring up would be an iPerf server, so that you can run iPerf against it. Otherwise, you could run iPerf against some server on the other side of Aether. So that would be a true throughput, true end-to-end.
Okay, thanks. So just as a reminder, I mean, I think a year ago there was a lot of discussion about performance, and there were some kind of performance problems. And I think it had something to do with like an MTU issue or something, as I recall.
Yeah, so some of this was addressed, right?
Yeah, but I think that's behind us. But just just for full context, Larry, and so at that time, or maybe this is orthogonal, but then separately, for the QA team, Sagar and I see on here, I'm not sure. Halavi's here. So,
Yes. Yep.
but we
I'm
talked
here, yeah.
about adding, some performance as part of the QA process, and at least for kind of, periodically or per release to document performance, just so we have a baseline so that we can see if things change on us. Did anything ever happen in that dimension?
No, we need to talk about the baselining numbers and the way we need to test this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Larry, it feels like you're on the right track, and kind of having.
I think we need a more A, concrete, and B, expansive agenda here. I just had a very narrow. If I could at least get iPerf running, I would know a baseline number.
Yeah.
I mean, when I run the physical Geno Bs on locally, I'm not getting terribly great throughput. and I have no idea where the bottleneck is.
What's not terribly great throughput?
I'm getting a couple megabits a second.
Less than 10?
Yeah. And I can't, I'm not running something purposely trying to stress performance. I'm just watching, my iPhone or my Android try to download a video or whatever. So I have no idea what's slowing that down, and it's not a well-designed test. I just know that I'm not seeing great performance. Oh, I know. I downloaded a multi-gigabyte Android update, and I was not getting more than a couple megabits.
Yeah.
So Larry, maybe Suresh can come and make a presentation, short presentation about what we have, how we test it, right? Either with T-Rex or iPerf, and show the type of data we are.
Yeah, that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really helpful, and then we can consider it as a base, and then maybe we build up on the top of it as per the expectations here.
Well, we also know that, I mean, the UPF is likely the source of whatever, either the bottleneck or good throughput, and this multiple UPF topic, the SRIOV topic, the other things Christian was mentioning, and I think Intel does have an interest in highlighting the capabilities of the chipset and various ways to configure. And so I think it would be great to try to capture some of this and incorporate it. And like I said, this did come up a year ago. I'm sure it'll come up again. Anybody deploying will then run into this kind of thing, and it's going to need guidance.
Yeah, we want to have throughput data on again DPDK based or AF packet based or AFXDP, right? So we can show you what we've been doing here. Yeah. Even CNDP, right? Cloud native data plane.
Yeah, so I think getting that presentation, and I'm sure we can find a way to schedule it during the TST call, and if not, we could find another time. But I think we should just
during the TST call is fine.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'll be in contact, and we'll get a good time scheduled.
Okay.
I mean, so just there's the UPF, and then there's all the scaffolding around UPF, and so the way that the UPF gets connected an on-ramp, which was very much like it got connected in Ether in a box, might not be optimal for performance. I don't know. Adding SRIOV probably helps, but are there other limitations in there? That's also part of the issue. The multi-UPF work, by the way, one of the things that you encounter pretty quickly is, are those UPFs running on the same server or not? We're going to keep them on the same server now, but multiple cores. In the first cut of that work. Okay, I have one loose end, and I think I saw Scott on the call, so that's great. And well, actually, be somewhere between Scott and Andy. The ROC supports metrics. I don't know how to turn those metrics on. Is there some way to understand that? Do you remember?
So do you mean the metrics that were embedded directly in the ROC GUI as opposed to ones that were in Grafana?
Yes. So yeah. Let me see if I can. Well, I'm sorry, I tore this one down, so I don't actually have any data in it. But yeah, the metrics that show up inside of here.
Yeah, if I'm remembering back, a year and a half ago, that stuff never worked right, and we'd always go to Grafana instead. Do you remember, Andy?
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing, that I don't think that ever was really working that well.
So enable it at your own risk.
Yeah, from a loose ends point of view, the answer might be take it out of the GUI.
Yeah.
Use Grafana.
And I don't see Sean on the call, so I have no idea how to get it out of the GUI.
Yeah,
Oh.
I can raise the issue with Sean.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm doing as I go through the documentation is I'm trying to identify features that kind of withered away and aren't really there, and then because if people are reading the documentation, they think it's there, they're going to ask, why isn't it there? Okay, so the final bullet here is about some nightly tests, and been in conversation with the QA team at GS Labs, so I think this is at least the first and the third of these are on the plate. I just wanted to add a third test, which is to bring up the quick start configuration, except with AMP owning the configuration of the core by turning the standalone flag to off. So this is standalone, not in the 3GPP sense of the word, but standalone in terms of does the core come up without rock or with rock?
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
so this.
so that looks just like the first test, except you change one variable in the configuration and then rerun it.
Okay.
And the first and the third one are ones that I know you guys have run. It's just a matter of taking the step to get them nightly. And the issue here, from my point of view, is there's so many dimensions to this that every change that gets made, it's virtually impossible for me to test them all individually. And I just would like the assurance that code that gets checked in didn't break one of those important cases.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, definitely. So we are on this. There were some issues related to adding those particular nodes into the Jenkins. So Preetham is discussing this with DAF, and he has provided today morning as well, our time too. He has provided few solutions. Preetham was supposed to try it. Unfortunately, he is not feeling well. That's why he also couldn't join the call today. But I'll ensure that this gets done sooner than later.
That would be great. Thank you. And again, and well, I mean, someone's got to be watching the results of that, but we'll as soon as they're running regularly, we'll figure out the right way to send out alerts.
Yes, that's correct. So this was also one of our points when we were talking about automating the tests nightly run. As of now, it doesn't seem to have any notifications in terms of the email. So right now, whatever the jobs that we have scheduled, we kind of do it, check it manually daily.
Yeah, so I'm adding this to the queue at the very bottom.
Sure.
It's related to that, and key requirement is notifications.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. So I think with that, we should start to see. I mean, I have the GNB physical base station running constantly, and I'm able just to watch the monitoring on that. Yeah, there you can see it. One of my UEs went down, but everything is technically still up. All right, SD-RAN, I don't think, without Wujan, there's probably not a whole lot to say here. Anyone has something, speak up, but if we can get if we can get the ONOS-RIC incorporated in the on-ramp, that would be a big step forward.
Looks like Sean joined. If you want to close that item we were just talking about.
Oh, hey, Sean.
Hi, Larry. Sorry I was late.
Yeah, no problem. So this is going back up to this loose end right here. Between Andy and Scott, they were pretty sure that the metrics that show up in the RIC GUI are not to be depended on. And my preference would be that if we could fairly straightforward way of getting that yanked out of the GUI so no one expects to find something there, that would probably be a good thing to do.
Yeah, they don't work properly, so yeah, they can be taken out.
Okay.
So I think the best thing to do is create a gyro issue for them.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, that'll be it, so it doesn't fall off the radar.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Larry.
All right, so RAN, we covered core. Is there anyone on the call that has something to talk about on the core? Nope. Okay, so QA.
Yeah, I'll take this up. So for SD Core version 1.3 test cases automation, we are pretty close to completing it. We have also created an automation nightly job where we are deploying Ether in a box, and then we are running our automation suite over it. So we are seeing some failures in that job, and we are continuously monitoring it and adding fixes to the issues that we see in or the failures that we see in this nightly job.
So is this failure of the SMF?
Sorry,
Is the failure that the SMF fails on a pretty regular basis?
no. Right now we are seeing some failures in the code, so those are code-related issues. So we are
all right. So let
fixing.
me ask you to also run it against OnRamp and the GNV Sim because we see pretty consistently the SMF failing.
Sure.
This when you say 1.3 automation, this is Helm chart 0.12.8.
Right.
And we have with OnRamp, we've fallen back to 0.12.6 because 0.12.8 fails so regularly.
Mhm.
It's like it works every other time. If the test ran, then the second time you run it, it will run. If it's an odd number of runs, it doesn't. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry, is there anybody who has ownership of that SMF issue?
Well, we've passed that along to AJ, but that's the best I can say. Bilal, is there anything else to say about that?
No,
We've
actually,
captured logs and AJ's aware of it.
yeah, we do have a pull request in SMF repo. But yeah, we have not tested it with that PR yet. So I don't have any concrete that should work, but yeah, there is a PR. But I have to talk to Ajay to close this thing.
Oh, I see. It's like it's
All right, so
like it's like a voice, but like
That's
like
no,
you can-
Larry, I would like to just correct it. Ajay has a PR. Ajay has made a PR.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. There's some interference. I can't quite hear somebody else. Okay, so AJ has the pull request. Oh, AJ submitted a pull request.
yes,
Oh, okay, thanks. And what's holding that up? I would think he would be the one approving his own pull request.
that I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll cross check with Ajay and I'll let you know.
Okay, thanks. All right. Anything else on the 1.3 automation?
Well, I'm just observing that the nightly jobs the QA team is running are against Ether in the box. Is it appropriate to really start retargeting towards OnRamp?
I would say that would probably be a good idea. It will kill, in some cases, two birds with one stone. Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about it just for the bypassing the SMF issue, but I'm just thinking in general, you know, we're moving all our efforts towards OnRamp.
Yeah, so when we test on ramp, we don't have to run a substantial core test, but it could be a substantial core test, and that wouldn't probably detract from the on ramp test either.
Okay.
Does that make sense to the QA team? Is that a lot of
Yes.
work? Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, I think the strategy right now, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, is to support both, Ether in a box and on-ramp in parallel. So probably augmenting the tests and having nightly jobs that run against both makes sense right now. Or
Well,
you
I
sure?
mean, it could. I think that, well, they will start to diverge more, I suppose. So instead of shifting, also add, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, that is one. Yeah, as a question really for this group, right?
Well, for now, doing both of them is not, it's not like we're short of resources. So let's just go ahead in that route for now. If we get to a point where we're not getting anything out of some of the tests, then we can start pruning.
And is this line right here seeing failures of SMF? And I mean, right now you're not seeing it in on-ramp because you've backed out the SMF, isn't that?
Well, I mean, right. When using 0, 12, 8, right. And I see no reason whatsoever that you wouldn't see exactly the same problems with Ether in a box. I mean, except possibly that they're timing related, and through some luck of the draw, it didn't crop up on Ether in a box.
Right. Well, Kunal, earlier you said that you were finding and fixing problems. Larry asked if they were SMF related, but maybe you could. I mean, what kind of problems have you found, and what problems have you been fixing?
Those are related to our code. We do see some failures related to the test cases that we have written. Those, I mean, though they were unit tested, but yeah, after integration, we could see some issues in it.
Well, so let me back up to here on these nightly tests. Let me add a fourth nightly test, which is fortunately I failed to the next page, but repeat with 0, 12, 8. And this one is repeat previous test with amp and standalone equal false.
Okay. So by in previous test, you mean the quick start that we did earlier?
Yeah, when I say previous, the previous line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 4 tests. The first 2 are first one is a base one, and then you vary it. The second one, and then you vary it.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean that is a little bit ambiguous. Let me just say repeat the quick start. But this time there, and then repeat the 2 server tests with core chart equal that. All right, so we've been talking about that. It's just a matter of getting the notifications. Is there anything else?
From QA, I think we do not have much. We are just supporting a team from Global Logic. I got some queries from them, and they are, I mean, occasionally they are sending some queries as well via direct messages, but I am trying to ask them to use the proper channel and use Ether dev channel for the same.
Okay, thanks. They're interested in a deployment of some kind or a proof of concept.
Yeah, they are. I mean, in the deployment stage right now, they are trying to explore our core. So right now they are in the proof of concept stage only.
Okay, thanks. All right, anything else? All right, that sounds like it. Thanks, everybody. See you again next
Bye,
week.
everyone. Thanks, Larry. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thanks. Bye.